Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second Syndicate. My name is Alicia Garcia. I am the plaintiff in Garcia versus Polis. I am Colorado's 2A bad girl. You know my co-host, Teddy Collins, owner of Spartan Defense, co-founder of the second Syndicate. Here, welcome. We have a very special guest today. We have Brita Horn of the Colorado Republican Party. She joins us for our second time having someone live in studio. So welcome.
Thank you for being here tonight.
I'm glad to be here.
We really appreciate it. We're going to have a very tight-knit show today because she has some other previous engagements, so we're going to get to it. Just to let everybody know, if this is your first time watching us, thank you so much. Make sure to hit that like, hit that bell, subscribe to us. And there are some really goofy things going on right now outside of normal algorithms. So we need engagement, man. Comment, say some stuff, ask some questions in the peanut gallery. We'll be sure to ask Brita what's on your mind. Keep it nice, keep it respectful.
And keep it 2A related.
Yeah.
We're here for 2A content today, okay? So
Absolutely. I'm sure she would love to tell you her favorite ice cream, but, you know, maybe we'll talk about that another day. Also, you can follow us on Rumble. You can follow us on X. You can follow us on Facebook. Follow us on all our platforms on IG and help us break the anti-2A algorithm and support us. You can also head to our bonfire store on our website, thesecondsyndicate.com. Buy some cool swag. We have some pretty cool shirts that are very, very pro 2A, and send some love our way. We are obviously a 2A. We are a, what is it, 501c4?
501c4 non-for-profit.
Yep. So every dollar that you donate to us, 50% of that goes to political engagement and supporting politics and making sure that we can protect the 2A. And we have a big election coming up, and we can talk about that a little bit more here with Brita. So make sure that you fill those coffers for us, because we will be spending a lot of time down at that Gold Dome fighting for your rights. And guess what? We need it. Help us.
Special news report here, guys. It turns out we're probably going to have an August special legislative session.
Oh, yeah, that's
called
right.
by the governor. So I'm wondering what anti-2A onslaught they're going to throw at us this time.
Because you know how much I love Polis.
Yeah.
You know how much I do. Well, let's get into it. So tonight's guest is somebody we've been wanting to have for quite some time. I'm glad we finally nailed her down. So, Brita, please introduce yourself to everyone and tell them who you are.
Okay, I'm Brita Horn. I've been in Colorado since 1989. Woo! It's been a while. So I'm definitely a ranch wife first. And we've been married 34 years. We have two daughters. They're both 28 and 30. One's in Nebraska with a husband and a grandchild, and the other one's in Kansas, and she's an attorney, a county attorney, and does some other things like that. And cool. We're just, very fortunate, very, very, very fortunate and blessed at since 9/11, and we could chat about that later, but we realized we didn't have a fire department, so we actually created a nonprofit 501c3 fire department. So very blessed to be the fire chief for the last 17 years.
Oh, that's
and
dope.
Taking care of my community, and that's been really important to me.
So my family is from Trinidad, Colorado. My grandfather was the fire chief of our entire town. So I am very, very proud of that. So it's very nice to have a fellow firefighter by blood and relation here in our studio today. Let's talk about some really cool topics that I know everybody's wanting to ask a lot of stuff, so let's just jump right in on it. Teddy, I'll let you take the lead on that.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that we have going on, of course, is we have Polis out this upcoming year in 2026, and we have a governorship that is up for grabs. We no longer have an incumbent. So I guess the question is how is the Republican Party strategizing or planning, without giving too much away, of course, for the statewide elections to take back either the legislator or the governorship so that we can have some protections here in Colorado, because it's been a bad couple years for the 2A here.
Absolutely, you think? A little bit. So, definitely we already know, and everybody's looked at the numbers. We already have 17 candidates for governor.
Geez,
17, and there's still going to be, my understanding, there's going to be one, if not two more coming.
Oh, wow.
So we have to figure out what that looks like. Yes. And you're right. And we're actually talking about this, and we're already kind of, you're going to get the behind the scenes kind of thing. We're figuring out where we can have an event and we can talk to all of them and say, what's going on? How are we going to do this? Because we really need to get this organized.
We do.
The other seats are already, people are kind of flowing in. We have already somebody's ready for treasurer, somebody for attorney general, somebody for secretary of state. So those things are really working on. But when a couple months ago, I got to go to the spring training for the RNC, which was in Miami at the Trump Doral, and the White House, and whoop whoop, it was fun. So I went also with the committee women and committee man. So committee women, Christy Ruckus and myself, we really got a chance talked to the RNC and the White House, and they're saying, like, we're following your lead. We're coming in. We're so happy to have the 50th state back. We're happy to be able, they're going to come and they're targeting with us. So they were like, what is important to Colorado? And I'm like, obviously the 4 congressional seats, 3, 4, 5, and 8. And we can unpack that for anybody that doesn't know who they are. But, it's Congressman Hurd, Crank, Lauren Boebert, and Gabe Evans. So with that, the plan for our whole process when we ran on March 29th for this election was to say we don't need that behemoth, that is what I called it, the $5,000 a month office in Greenwood Village that's been there for the last 17 years.
Sure.
And we just don't look that way anymore. We don't need somebody to answer the door. We don't need somebody to answer the phone because the phone's answered right here.
Yeah.
I'm answering the phone. It's fine, that we can do that when we're sitting right here in Colorado Springs. That's not where I am right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. I'm like, to make sure I'm in the right place. Sorry. So, we definitely want those regional offices in those CD districts. So we already have one here. And it's over here, Peak Republicans. So I have that. We had that as our office, and where when I come around, I come make sure I'm there.
Okay.
We're already talking about other ones in Mesa County,
Sure.
in Weld County, in Larimer County. I already have some ideas, and even in Douglas County. So if we can have those offices, I'll just go to the different offices and let's build relationship. Let's build community. Let's have pizza parties. Let's have coffee, clutches. Start knocking doors. Start, making phone calls. That block and tackling that we all know how to do. And we'll do that not only for that CD district, but also for all the HDs that are in there, all the SDs that are in there, all the ones that are running. We have to start using our plan a little bit now, kind of push it out,
Sure.
not show all our cards for school board, for fire board.
Yeah.
There's going to be water, there's town councils going on. We need to help them too.
Absolutely.
Get across that and use the plan.
I will say that it's great to be focusing on our congressional districts. I just hope they don't suck up all the oxygen in the room. And the reason being is because we're getting our butts kicked, not on the federal level where we're pretty safe. We have the power of veto through Trump, but we're getting our butts kicked in the state legislature.
Absolutely.
And we need some checks and balances, whether it be through the governorship, who can veto a crazy out of control legislator here in Colorado, or through the state legislators themselves who have been attacking 2A rights for the last since 2013 here in Colorado.
It's been a while.
Let's be honest, every legislative session they chip away at the Second Amendment. I mean, I own a gun store. I own one of the largest family-owned and operated gun stores in the state of Colorado.
And the best.
And
And the best.
I'm trying to be humble here.
It's kind of fun.
I'm not.
I'm looking around.
I'm
not
humble.
The point being is it's becoming almost virtually impossible as a gun business to operate, and that's their strategy. They want to close us down, and they want to attack the Second Amendment by taking out the people who are facilitating
Buying,
the Second
facilitating,
Amendment.
Absolutely.
everything.
And I'm not going to say it, so we're going to still talk about 2A, and I'm going to tell you some of the
Sure.
plans. But also, kind of step back just a little bit, another 10,000 feet. Do you think they're not doing that to us ranchers with the wolves?
Well, absolutely they
It's
are.
the same plan.
It's one of the craziest
Try to get
things
rid of the
ever.
ranchers, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing with the kids doing all this crazy stuff at the
Oh, yeah.
schools and all the parenting.
Yep.
You said it's the same.
I have 2 daughters. Trust me, I see it, and I'm very aware of it, and I'm very cautious about where my daughters go to school,
Right.
and what districts they're in.
Yeah.
I always check who the school board is, which you talked about, making sure that we get the right people elected for school
Exactly.
board.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, the youth in this state is the future.
Oh, yeah.
If they're
Absolutely.
brainwashed or completely indoctrinated, then we're never going to have any real change here in Colorado.
Well,
Absolutely.
we're seeing that with the gun bill that they just passed. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but this is very concerning to me. I talked about it this week in an event that I was at where they're essentially force feeding anti-gun rhetoric, not only to students, but to parents. So they passed a bill that says, hey, you know what? Here is gun education that we're going to give
And
electronically.
they teach the kids to red flag
Yes.
their parents.
And that's what they're doing. And it's like, okay, this isn't about safety. This is about conditioning children to, instead of embrace the tool, to have education about safety and respect for the tool.
Right.
They're saying, do you have this in your home? You're potentially in harm's way. Let's teach you to be fearful of the civil right, because if we can teach you to be fearful of this civil right, we can open that door to violating the right to privacy, the right to a legal search and seizure. We can take away your due process, because guess what? We normalize it under the guise of fear and gun safety.
Absolutely.
So now
absolutely.
what's to stop
It's
us
so
from coming to your
It sounds
house and say, hey, you know what? We're going to take your kids away from you
Right.
now because you are a liberty-based person. And we have noticed personally that the government and the powers that be do target us. Like, let's just be honest. They target our organizations. They target our businesses because we are so
do you
vocal.
think it was a surprise that I was the first store to get a firearms dealer division audit this last week?
Imagine that.
He told us we were the first ones. I'm very politically involved, so not me. Not me. I don't think it was coincidence.
So when you're going back to that, so the legislature, so absolutely. So we're already obviously talking with Rose Puglisi on the House side, and now with Cleve Simpson on the Senate side, and they have their lists. So that Rose is talking about 3 she wants to keep. We already know that it's Woog, Gonzalez, and Kelty.
Yeah,
Kelty's a friend.
Obviously,
She's been
and then 3 they want to flip. So we already have that list. Then I go over to and I talk to Senator Cleve Simpson a lot too.
Yes.
And he has 3 that he wants to make sure that we're taking care of. And there's maybe a 4th. So what I'm trying to say is we already know their list. But what's missing is the 5. Here's 2 things that are missing.
Sure.
The 5 that our Secretary Treasurer Russ Andrews already figured out that only lost last time by 12,000 total votes. All 5 of them.
Those are easy to
Those
flip.
are easy to flip.
Yes.
So we're going to add those. And one of the things I ran on was that there was 18 unseated elections.
Oh, I
in
know.
24.
Isn't that ridiculous?
We had 18 Democrats that just won because there were
There
no
were nobody
Republican.
running. Yeah, there's nobody running
opposed.
against them.
So
So they took that money and went after the bigger ones that we really had to fight for.
Absolutely.
So that's ridiculous.
I think it's sad.
this
Like,
brings up a
Sorry.
really good point that I want to discuss. So
we do have a question from the peanut gallery too. Peanuts. It's Will Long.
I just-
So hi Will, we love you. Will is a good friend. He is part of the Chainsaw Caucus that we are in heavily duty cahoots with. I love the Chainsaw Caucus. Will is asking the question. He says, big question for Brita is how does an attempted primary campaign against Rep Luck help the GOP maintain and gain ground for two-way in the upcoming election?
I'm not aware that there is a primary at this point. Okay. I know that people are running, and I haven't seen all the people that have signed up or signed up to run again, to file.
And I know you have to stay nonpartisan
exactly.
as the GOP chair when
Exactly.
it comes to these primaries.
Right, because we're going to do that. We're going to stay out of it. We don't want to put our thumb on the scale. We want everybody to have their chance and have their victory and work at that. But the minute though that the primary is over, we're hitting the ground running because we're still going to have the same plan.
Yeah.
It's not going to be based on who this is or who that is or what this person believes or what that person believes. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like we are going to be behind that R.
I would like to know why Stephanie Luck too, for everybody out there, if you guys want to send some information to the Second Syndicate, because Stephanie ran some pro-gun bills this in 2025, and I've sat in front of her in those hearings, and she asks really hard hitting questions. She's been very pro two-way from my perspective.
So you mentioned 18 unseated elections where Republicans did not run in those elections.
Right.
So this brings me to a question I wanted to ask you while you're here tonight. Okay. And are you in communication with the Libertarian Party for a pact?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm really close with Hannah. We've already talked a great deal because remember she went back to vice.
Yes.
And now she's back to chair.
Yes.
And I know this, see, because I was actually at their dinner and their award ceremony. I went there, and we definitely want to do more of what they did with Congressman Evans. They signed that pact.
Absolutely.
The Liberty Pledge.
We need to make sure we're on the same team.
Maybe there's a way, and I'm just going to put this out there, but maybe there's a way where we can work in tandem with the Libertarian Party so that in districts that are purple where Republicans can win, they get backed by the Libertarian Party. In districts that are blue, in which a potential Libertarian could take that chair, maybe Republicans could back that Libertarian candidate.
After the primary, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think there's going to still be those, because there's going to be some we're not going to be able to get in there, but we better have somebody running against
Absolutely,
them.
because
but I'm going to make sure I get I want to fill every seat.
Absolutely, but regardless, I think of it this way: we have staunchly blue seats in places like Denver's for the state level offices, where it's going to be very difficult for a Republican to win. But maybe a liberty-minded libertarian who doesn't have that R attached to their name has a chance, and then they can caucus with the Republicans or work with the Republicans.
Absolutely. Wouldn't that be great if they caucus?
It'd be amazing.
Exactly.
It'd be amazing.
I like that.
We're not going to agree on everything, but at least on 60-70% of the things, they're going to agree.
And we're going to have to get that because that's going to be different. So because the Weld County Republican is not going to win in Summit. I don't know how to explain that to anybody. So if we keep on looking for that Summit Republican,
not
we're
going
not
to
going
win.
to happen.
But a libertarian potentially could
exactly
make a run for the money if they have the blessing
or an
of the
R that
Republicans.
might not be that 80-20.
Exactly.
I can't change that. You know, I'm coming from Routt County, where we have very few in Routt County
Yes.
Republicans that are in there, and everybody else is independents or they're Democrats, especially because of Steamboat.
Sure.
Around the whole rest of the county, we couldn't be any more red in, you know, rural Colorado, or, you know, rural Routt County. It's South
Absolutely.
Routt, West Routt, North Routt. But that town is blue as can be.
And that comes back to gerrymandering, which is a huge problem here in Colorado.
Well, because
the
everything went
districts are crazy.
before I got here. Because I want to say it was probably 1984, if I remember correctly. I didn't get here to 89. That they made districts in their county used to just vote for the commissioner in that district. So, like Red County only has 3 districts, so there's only 3 you know, commissioners. Then in 1984, they said, no, let's do it at large. So everybody in the county is voting for District 1, District 2, District 3. That's how it gets watered down.
Yeah.
It's not just as much as gerrymandering, especially with this last consensus when we did this last, you know, when we what was it called? Redistricted everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I was on every time on that because Routt County actually even went from CD3, very solid, strong red. We got moved to CD2. So how can Routt County and Grand County and Jackson County be on the same team as Boulder County when you have people that are taking the money, water, and giving the water on the same team?
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't.
I
And we're
thought
supposed to
like,
have
no,
a nonpartisan commission that redistrict these districts, and doesn't
we
seem
are.
very nonpartisan when you're tying the majority of rural Colorado into a major population hub that's extremely blue.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're on the same page. So we're fighting all we can. So it's
an
getting
uphill
more of
battle.
us to get there. So if we can get, like you said, those libertarians in there, we can get those, you know, maybe not so pure Republicans, because we don't need a purity test. We don't need
No.
to have those done.
No.
We need to have people that can win in their area.
Exactly. And let's
win
be
them
honest, Colorado, like, I'm a conservative person. I consider myself a staunch conservative. But when we look at Colorado and we look at the makeup of Colorado, we look how many conservatives are leaving and what's being left. It's more of a libertarian minded independent, right? They don't consider themselves hardcore conservatives. Maybe they have some conservative values, but at the same time, they're more the mindset, leave me alone, I'll leave you alone type mindset.
The live and let
Exactly.
live.
Yeah.
That's the way we are, because our head is down and we're doing the work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So you are a first responder.
yes.
And we have a lot of love for first responders. We also have a lot of concerns for first responders because we live in a state that is not very first responder friendly when it comes to mental health. And so Colorado, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Colorado is 47th out of 50 when it comes to mental health resources. We're horrible when it comes to it, but we're 3rd in the nation for gun control. We're in the top 3 in the nation for gun control laws. We're number 2 in the nation for violent crime. So Colorado has risen under the protection of Polis.
And these are things that we should be hitting Polis on daily.
Absolutely.
Because he has turned
Because
our state into a
The
cesspool.
more gun control that rises, the more violence rises, right? We're telling people, hey, come here because nobody has the ability to fight back. There's a lot of restrictions. And one of the things that is we passed another law this session is red flag laws. There was the voluntary self-red flag laws. We have other red flag laws that are
And then, of course, SB 003, which is one of the strictest gun control laws in the nation.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And I actually also was down there that first day. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of when we might have met or at least saw each other. And I call it double out 3.
I was like, hey,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Use it. But I'm
Pointing
because every time I said that, when I did my 3 minutes, all their eyes went up and looked at me like, she just said what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, But I'm just saying, so we were all there fighting for that, and you're fighting
Yeah.
against
Yes.
that, and you're
And
absolutely
I
right. That's
appreciate
huge.
that, by the way,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I need to see, like, I really judge people, like, how involved are you? Are you actually speaking out against these laws? Or are you sitting here complaining? So one of the things that is very concerning to me is the fact that they're using this red flag system to bypass people's due process to get the government in their home. And then it's due to the respondent, whoever is red flagged, to prove to the state that indeed they're mentally sound enough to get their property back. So for red flag people out there, if you don't know what that means, it's basically somebody who's law enforcement, military, teachers, government officials, things of that nature can say, hey, you know what? We feel you're a threat to yourself or others. We can alert the government. The government within 72 hours comes in your home, confiscates your guns and ammunition, and now you have to prove to them that indeed you deserve your property back, which is horrible. And that leads us into SB 25003, that if they make these guns that they confiscate illegal, now because of civil asset forfeiture and the gun being illegal, they don't have to give it back to you. And
Right.
that violates a lot of things like the takings clause and other ideologies that we have as a government system. You being a first responder, understand that the highest risk individuals out there are first responders, because if they get red flagged or if they don't seek help, they could potentially lose their jobs, things of that nature. So what do we do as, you being involved in the GOP? How do we combat these things and help protect, you know, not only first responders, but people that are having mental health issues without violating their due process and getting red flags going off left and right here in Colorado.
Right.
What can you do as that person?
As a person, I think is making sure, like we just talked about earlier, getting the right people in the job to be able to be the legislators. Because, you know, you asked earlier, I think we were offline, but you were asking what the job is of the
What is the job of the
GOP.
chair?
The chair of the job of the chair is number one is fundraise. So I'm on the phone all the time. I make sure I'm on at least as a donations at least 3 hours a day and nothing less than that. And then I'm writing thank you notes when we get the funding. So I have to do the fundraising for the whole bit. So even when you hear kind of like off, you know, maybe on social media, people are saying, oh, her budget was so, you know, aggressive. It's less than the people in the past. I actually showed you one. We actually voted on one. And guess what? If I don't get the funding for it, then we're going to have to adjust.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to go in debt. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure we do this. And we're going to get a lot of partners on it. And I've already actually spoken to a number of associations that are willing to help because they're putting good money after bad in the past and all these other organizations, all these other places, and they're not getting the job done they want. And I'm able to share with them, we can talk about a strategy and all that so they know what's going on and everybody knows what's planning. So when you go back to that, the party, it's getting the work done. It's being in the trenches. I call it like being the factory, the foundation, the machine. And I know people have really different ideas of that word, just like the word liberty, but it's just like we need to just do the method and get the pieces done and do the work. We need to have our head down and do the work and get those voices out for those legislators. Because I have a lot of people that are like, use the platform. You need to be using all these statements. I'm like, you already know what kind of Republican I am. Yeah, I do carry a gun. Yeah. You know, I love babies. You know what I mean? Like, I know all these things. And yes, I can say I'm MAGA. I worked for President Trump in 2020 in New Mexico.
Yeah.
You don't need to hear from me.
It's becoming such an awful term. Like, it literally stands for Make America Great Again. I'm not like a super Trumper, but it's like, what's wrong with that?
We're having, you know, with the big, beautiful bill, everything that's going on, and we could talk about national. My head's down in Colorado and getting the work done. And how do we get the steps and get movement and get a forward march, you know, a cadence, and get our army moving all in the same direction? We got to herd the bees, herd the cats, and get them all going in one direction.
So you mentioned fundraising, and you know, you mentioned this, and I don't know how much we can get into this, so forgive me for this, but we have 17 Republican candidates running for governor, or 17 people running for governor. I've looked at the numbers as far as what they've raised so far themselves, and it's a little frightening.
Yeah.
So if I remember correct, Weiser has 1.3 million raised on the Democrat side. Bennett on the Democrat side has 1.7 million raised with less cash on hand than Weiser because he's spending like a drunk sailor. And then you have our Republican candidates. I think in the lead is cash on hand is Sheriff Mikesell, who we've had on the show before, followed by Scott Bottoms. But we're talking the $20,000 and $10,000 range.
Scott on the show also in the past.
Yeah, we have had Scott again. We have had Scott on the show as well.
We like both of them. They're very wonderful
Joshua Griffin as well. But the point being is we're talking about, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 compared to 1.3 and 1.7 million at this point in time. I understand that you can't endorse a primary candidate, but is the Republican Party fundraising at this point to raise funds and be ready for that general election for whoever that gubernatorial candidate is going to be?
So again, the fundraising, you're absolutely right. It's going to take a lot. And I feel like, and I've looked at the numbers and I've been looking at nationally, and they're going to say a governor to win in this state is going to be 30 million.
I agree.
Jesus.
Yeah.
But if we can take the governorship, you know, it's great if we can pick up House seats, Senate seats, things of that nature. But we have the power of veto with the governor if we can get a governor in there. And we're not running against an incumbent anymore. Polis is out. So we've got two mediocre Democrats running. I hope we can take the governorship. I really do.
So then when you're talking about fundraising, again, we're going to be fundraising for that mechanism. Remember we talked about those regional offices. So we're going to have a regional director. So we got to pay for them in each one. And we're going to work them as hard as we can. I mean, it's going to be 7 in the morning, 8 to night. Maybe you get 1 hour off for church on Sunday.
Okay.
And then they're going to have their own staff too. They're going to have, you know, what do you want to, organizers. Okay. And so they're going to be paid too. So the money's going to be going into all those pieces. So this is what's really different about Colorado, because as long as I've been here, they haven't run this way. And I learned this when I worked for the Trump victory campaign in New Mexico, is that you have these areas do the work, you put the staff there, you get them to get the volunteers, and then when we're knocking on the doors after the primary, they're putting on a bag on the door handle, right? But it's all the candidates. so that the candidates don't have to have their own staff and they don't have to have their own volunteers to be doing this. Does
Sure.
this make sense? It's like we're flipping it around so we become the staff for all the candidates after the
Sure.
primary.
And then that money, instead of going to one primary candidate, can go to
with
a
all,
fund.
all this work
That
and all
makes
these
sense.
items, and we're going to be able to help. Where they're going to get the money is they're going to get the money from the individual donors, because
Yes.
they have different limits than we do. So right now, if you when I ask a full paid donor for us, it's $10,000 per person, $20,000 per couple. If I get any more than that from them, other than $4,000 that you can put in the state funds, that's just the federal fund. We have to go over to the IEC, and the IEC is the one that's going to be able to get the big money. And they're going to get money from all these associations, all the oil and gas groups, all the gun groups.
Sure.
You know how they're all out there. And if they see somebody, they're going to give it to the IEC. I can't talk to the chair of the IEC. They decide where they want the money to go for those candidates. So see how it's like different money?
Yeah.
So there's operating money and then there's campaign money.
Understand.
And once we have our governor candidate after the primary, the Governors Association is going to fully back them and give them the
Good.
money.
Good.
Do you see what I'm saying? So I'll never see that. That's not our operating funds.
No, I understand.
Do you see-
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
just different pockets and how it goes. And I think people just need to understand that better, that, I'll be fundraising is for the organization and we'll help as much as we can. But whatever extra money is going to be coming from that IEC
Sure.
or these other associations.
So speaking of fundraising, everybody out there, please head to thesecondsyndicate.com. You can donate to us because we are a 501c4. If you want to see more conversations like this to keep this show rolling, for us to keep, having conversations that are pro 2A and fighting for you, you can go to our Give, Send, Go. That's linked to our website. You can donate to us directly on our website. You can buy merch, anything you want. Keep us in your good favor.
And guys, it's 2026 legislative session is around the corner. We also have a special session here in August. We are heavily involved in the legislative sessions here in the state of Colorado. We are usually on the ground. We are usually talking to representatives and senators on both sides of the aisles, trying to flip some of those Democrats to a no vote on these anti-gun bills, which we were able to successfully do a few last year, including good old Tony Exum. We were the ones that, we scared him through a recall effort that was pretty damn effective, and he swapped his vote from a yes to a no. I wish we could have done more of those, but we're limited
We
by
can.
finances and limited by people, so your help really does help the 2A and help us. That being said, guys, make sure you're commenting on the comments. If you have any questions for Brita while she's here, put them up, and we'll get those questions to her.
So you wanted to talk about some ways that we can hold Republican legislators accountable that, vote or support, gun control and things of that nature. So obviously you heard it here first. She's a gun toting chick. We want that. We want people that have experience with firearms and are pro 2A. What do you think that we can do? Would you support there being some form of, GOP scorecard or something that we can do to make sure that they are pro 2A that we can work with? I know there's other organizations that do something of that nature. We would like to do something that's a little bit more, less aggressive and a little bit more enticing for people to want to fill that out, because we would like even Democrats to see, make statements on, hey, how pro 2A or anti 2A are you? Is that something that you would be open and willing to?
I think when we talk about all the different groups, and I was talking about all the different committees we are, and I'm going to go over to the fall, we have a chain, what we call chain of command, and just an org chart, how everything's going. So we have everybody on top, that's part of the decision making of the party itself. Obviously, you have your attorney here, you have your executive director, and you go down to all these different committees. But there's one whole strategy and one whole group that we're just calling all our coalitions. So we want a gun coalition. We need to put one together, and we need to be having these conversations. And how can we have those conversations without, like you said, just slamming them down? There's got to be a soft approach to it, so people can kind of feel comfortable about it.
I want people to
You're absolutely
participate and not be
exactly
unwilling to participate.
Exactly. They need to feel comfortable with it or what level they are. And I think we're going to get that if we have it right. And if I have it right, I think there's going to be some ways we can do some surveys and some strategies and actually just kind of warm people up to it. It's called AI.
Yeah.
Look
Oh,
at
we
you
love it.
smile.
Oh, we
And
love
if we
it.
can put out what do you want to call it, a QR code, and they can click on it, and then, because they saw something about us in the 2A, or us in the Hispanic group, or us in the Christian group, or the Jewish group, and then we even have the Young Republicans. We haven't had a chance to talk about the Young
Woo!
Republicans.
Shout out to the Young
I'm actually
Republicans.
involved with
great.
the El Paso County.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
we should because that's going to be our bench. Remember we talked about that too,
Yeah.
that our bench is going to come from all the ones of the 2A guys and the Young Republicans, because we know they're the Gen Zs that, just tell me I'm wrong. And I know this is kind of a sidebar, But we have got the most conservative Gen Zs coming out of high school,
Yes.
coming out of college.
I love
and I
it.
believe the reason why, and this is just my psychology degree and being a
I
mom.
think it's rebelling.
Oh.
It's rebelling because you're absolutely right. They were taught a certain way. They were from home. Their parents told them how to, what to believe. They all had their own ideas, and then they have to go to school and they
Exactly.
have to
They're
write a
force-fed.
paper to their woke teacher that the only way they could win.
I
And the
think-
only
Yeah.
way they can get their A, excuse
Yeah,
me,
I
they can
think,
get
I
their
think
grade.
it comes down to America
Absolutely.
as a society as well. We are a non-conformist. We are non-conformist in general. We tend to be so. We tend to not like authority. That's how our country was formed. We rebelled against the Brits. So
And
I
when
think
it
that has a
all
lot to
came
do with
down,
it.
and you're right, so they had that spirit in them, and then let's flip it over, because now Charlie Kirk's been talking a lot about this. I've been following him since the very beginning.
I like
I met him
Charlie.
in student
Highly
in
intelligent
Steamboat, and I'll embarrass my daughter. I got his phone number because when he was single, I was trying to get him to date one of my daughters. I still have his number, don't worry. But he's married and happy, and so are mine. Okay, so moving on. But anyway, what I'm saying
Sounds
is,
familiar.
we know how we do this. But what I'm saying is, the last meeting I saw him at, it was a private function at the Broadmoor, and he talked about, he said, the Gen Z boys, they are looking for ritual, they're
Yeah.
looking for rules, and they're running to the Catholic Church.
I love it.
And all the girls are running right after all those
I love
kids.
that.
You know what I mean? And they're all looking for that because they didn't have it in school.
Yeah.
And they didn't have it with those parents. My kids are millennial kids.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit older. They had structure. They
Yeah.
had critical thinking. We were there.
They know cursing.
And exactly. And I was in the schools, fighting when all the stuff, when that Common Core was coming in, and all the CCAP tests and the TCAP tests, and trying to say that they were all, because they were all trying to conform them. That's that socialist, that's that fascist, that's that Marxist upbringing that the school districts and the teachers unions wanted, because they want them to conform. But they didn't realize they made a bunch of conservatives for
Yeah.
us. And it's going to be another generation of it. As long as they keep shoving that down their throat in public schools, they're going to be ours. when
I
they
love
get
it
out.
though. I love getting the youth involved, and I love that this topic is here. If you're out there and you have, children that are on campus here in Colorado, or you have kids that want to get involved, we would love to speak to them. We are working diligently, not only with YAL, Young Republicans for Liberty, we're working with the Young Republicans. We're working with a lot of organizations out there that are youth focused to bring people in, and the Second Syndicate would love to speak with them and bring them in. So
Absolutely.
Stay
We
high.
are looking for potential college chapters as well
Nice.
to educate
Yeah.
people on the Second Amendment and to educate people on their constitutional rights. That is a big priority and a big goal for us. So if you are interested in potentially starting a Second Syndicate chapter at your college,
Yeah.
please reach out to us. We'd like to
let
talk
us
to you.
know. And if you have youth or people that you'd like us to speak out, remember that we're firearms educators as well. We're not just activists. We can actually teach and educate and inform. So we are open to having those sessions and meetings as well. We were actually throwing around the idea, and we've decided that we're going to do it. I actually talked to Representative Carlos Barron last night, who is the new whip.
Yep.
We are going to host a firearms educational event on range for state legislators, because we
Nice.
see that is such
For
a
both
huge
sides.
issue for
Yeah,
both
for both
sides.
sides. Come on in.
We'd
Yeah,
love
let's-
for
everybody.
Democrats to come
Absolutely.
out and
So
actually
we are
learn.
going to invite every single person that works down at that Gold Dome to come out to the range, and we're going to do some classroom education, and we're going to do some actual firearms handling and education, because that's one of the things that we've noticed is it's such a plague when you go to speak out against these bills, and there's so much misinformation
Right,
and so much
exactly.
indoctrination and so much fear, and then they're like, this is what this organization says. Well, the problem is the people that they're getting information from and research from are anti-2A.
And they don't know anything about guns other than how to try to restrict them.
Exactly. Or in the
Knowledge
mechanism on how they work and what magazine is versus a clip. Remember all that? They
Yeah.
didn't even know, and they didn't know the numbers.
Well,
they didn't know
don't know-
anything.
they don't know
the
squat.
ammo. They don't know squat. You're
I
absolutely
mean,
right.
during the last legislative session for 003, we heard some of the most ludicrous things being said about, for example, permanently affixed magazines. There's no gun right now where
What is
that is
that?
the case. Yeah. How do you, and also there's no description on what they mean by that. But we were trying to explain to them, if you have a permanently affixed magazine to a firearm and you have a malfunction in a life-threatening situation, you're not able to clear that malfunction
Or
without
make that gun
disassembling
safe.
the entire firearm or
Absolutely.
make it safe.
Right.
So I think education goes a far way, and I think that's one thing that the left doesn't want. They don't want education. They want to keep these items mystical and feared,
Right,
because with
exactly.
fear, that's how they get their policies passed, and that's how
Absolutely.
they. Yeah.
When you add to that group and you have that, the one gap that I'm seeing is getting the young Republican college students to young Republicans, the 18 to 39. It's like we're
Yes.
missing that. There's a little bit of a gap there. We're not getting them rolled over.
We gotta figure
kinda,
that out.
Yeah, we got to kind of keep finding them and keep getting them in the right direction. So I'm just saying, I kind of noticed this last year. We're just kind of, where'd they go? You know, we got to
Yeah.
go find them again. So
Yeah.
let's make sure
And
we're
this
doing
is-
that bridge.
This is something this is a really good question, and this is something that Alicia and I have talked about in the past. This comes from Colorado Trail Boss.
Yes.
And the question is, has there been any thought to reach out to the military bases in the state and educate them on their ability to vote in the state of Colorado and not suffer taxes? This is a big deal.
It is.
Because I looked at
Shout
the
out to
numbers.
Colorado Trail Boss. That's a great question.
Absolutely. And I've looked at the numbers, and I think the numbers, if I remember correct, are about 18,000 to flip Colorado as a blue state to a red state or something along that line.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I mean, I think
military-
we can. I mean, I think it's there. Do you know what I mean? I think those numbers are all dependent on the different
Sure.
races and all that. But overall, what do we need to do? Because we do know this, that, you know, the total number of Republicans and Democrats are
Yes.
50% of all those independents. And
But if
that's
you
those
look at the
independents.
military population,
of course,
they
sure.
generally tend to be more Republican
Right.
than Democrat, right?
They are. But let's focus right into Fountain.
Yeah.
Fountain is a lot of military.
Yes.
You're all out there. Good to see you. Guess what? 13%
Wow.
turnout. We
Wow.
gotta
That's-
figure
that's
that
something
out.
we need to figure out, because
there they
I-
are.
it's-
They're
if-
all parents. They have kids. They're busy. I don't know what it is, but everybody's tried this.
So can we-
This has become my thing down here. It's like, how do we get those ballots off the kitchen table and in the ballot box?
Well, voter registration drives, we'll have to look into the legality on this on a base, for example,
Right.
maybe in the
Yeah.
private sections of the base where
The
like
voter-
the exchange
but let's go
are-
back to voter registration
Sure.
drive. So I have, because I'm really good friends with Scott Pressler, and about 4 summers ago, I had him come and we circled the square state.
Tell him I said, hey, we want to be his friend.
Because I see him all the time at CPAC, and we do, because I also work for CPAC, so I manage CPAC when it's
Sure.
at the event.
Hi.
And all the volunteers. Yes, you want to be a volunteer?
Yeah,
We're
I
going
would
to be
love
in
to.
Texas. We'd love to have you.
Don't get me started.
March
we
25,
just,
26.
we just left Texas, and let me tell
Come
you,
back. It's going to be a grapevine at the Gaylord and grapevine. I've already got
I
it all
shed a
figured out.
tear because I was
Okay,
like,
come be a fr-
you know
come be
how
a
nice
volunteer.
it is to drive down a street, and I'm like, I saw 8 American flags on this street.
Yeah,
Like,
it's Texas.
it's nice. It's nice to
We're
see
not-
patriotism.
We finished the contract in DC, but what I'm trying to say is, so it was good for vote, and he does a great model. He's doing a great job in Texas, in Pennsylvania. Remember, he went to Wisconsin, and now he's in Jersey. He's doing a great job because there's so many people not voting or never signed up to vote.
Sure.
Our state, they're saying there's like 150,000 people aren't registered to vote.
I think
And I
32,000 of those are hunters.
But I still think, though, if they drive, they are used. They are independents because it's motor voter. You can't get a driver's license without already being registered.
Now, here's
get 'em
where the
faced up.
disconnect comes with the military, because a lot of the military personnel here in Colorado do not get a Colorado driver's license. They keep their home state driver's
Okay,
license.
there you go.
So
How do we
I think
change them?
If you look at the military personnel numbers in Colorado, they alone, if we were to get 60% of them, they alone would be able to flip the state from blue to red. The main concern with them is, would they lose their tax incentives in their home state from the states like Georgia or Texas if they register to vote here? Do they now have to pay Colorado state income tax?
So you're right. So we need to unpack that, because you're right.
Exactly. And I
Because
don't
we
think
only
they
wait.
do.
Because so there
Yeah.
might be our gap where we're saying we're getting these voters, we can't get them voted because they're keeping their statehood
But
where
they
they're
can
from.
keep their state driver's license, from my understand, and use their orders to register to vote. And I
Okay, there you
believe they
go.
can, we'll have to check into this, but I believe their taxation can still be their home state. But while they're stationed here, they can vote here without having the tax penalty. We'll have to look into that.
Let's do that together,
Yeah,
because I
let's-
really think that makes a lot of sense. Because I'm really going to be asking, now that we're moving forward, we have everybody on our team. Let's move forward and get this job done. Because like you said, 470 days.
Yes.
470
We're-
days.
470 days. Actually,
She's got it on her
469.
phone as a counter.
Till
till election day.
election day and November 6, 2026. We are here, and I feel out of breath because we're behind.
Yes.
And I know for all the internal reasons we're behind. So let's move forward. Let's turn around. Let's open up this tent and start shooting on the way out, proverbially,
Yeah.
shooting, okay, and getting these things
So
done.
how-
So this is
Brita,
perfect.
You say you're behind. What do you need as the chair of the GOP? What do you need to
Thank
get
you for
ahead?
asking. Okay, so we need to get this plan out and pushed and working it. I need the 64 chairs of these counties, the 64 chairs, to start getting to work. They have not been held accountable in the past. I need them to be voter registration drives. When you look it up on the state party, you're going to see us too, because now we already have us as a state party as a voter registration drive. So we have our own link, and whenever we're doing events, you're going to go use that, turn that link into a QR code, and we're going to have you check your voter registration, change it, or vote. But we need all the other counties to do it. There's like 4 counties right now that do this on the Republican side. All the Democrats have it all done. We have got to get this done.
I've got an idea for you.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm in
So the gun
see
industry has been getting their butt kicked here in Colorado for the last few years, especially in the last few years.
Especially in the last
And
5
this
years.
is an idea that I am trying to do right now. I'm trying to register my store as a voter registration location so that we can offer to our clients. And I know many FFLs across the state that are willing to do the same. Maybe you can help educate them and get them enrolled as voter registration locations so that we can offer that, because the large majority of customers that come into a gun store tend to be conservative or GOP leaning.
Yeah.
So just your group, we have to figure it's a C3, C4, whatever group we're going to do, whatever association, you guys get your own, like I said, your own link. Once you go through this class, it's not very long. It's like an hour and a half of time online.
I'm also, Sean, and I'm the vice president of the Colorado Federal Firearms License Association with Sean, who's president. We could utilize our FFLs to mobilize voter registration. I think it'd be great. Let's talk.
Okay, so because I'm going to be honest with you, when I was down in New Mexico, and I was very fortunate to have all CD3 there, which was from, if anybody knows New Mexico, it's from Shiprock, all the Raton, all the way down to Albuquerque, almost Albuquerque.
Sure.
So there was like 13 counties. So a lot of the counties did have their offices, but a lot of them didn't. So we did what we call pop-up events. So they got them a tent, got them some tables, they already have a truck, and we had swag, because everybody was buying, Trump swag, but we got them to sign up to be voter registration. Guess where we did those on Saturday? In front of the gun shops.
Heck yeah.
There you go. Because we were able to do it just individually. It's a different state. You didn't have to be signed up, with the process. So the county, let the state know we're doing this. We'll reverse that and put it in all the places. So you guys have your own code. You can have your QR code at the door. They can click on it. They can check. Like I said, there's 3 pieces they can do. They check their status. They can, change their status, because we need to start getting all these unaffiliates to become Republicans. We need to put more points on the board, or they register to vote.
Including like churches, homeschool co-ops,
right?
Places like that too. I think that'd be a good place for us to start as well.
When you talk about fundraising, I will say I haven't been reached out to yet, and I'm a pretty big business person here in Colorado, entrepreneur. I've got funds to donate, but the point being is that there's a lot of FFLs that feel slighted and that are probably willing to donate for 2026. Maybe we should be talking to those.
Because my lists I'm seeing right now are very traditional lists. They're lists that we've had in the past, or what was left for us. And when you look at the list, and I'm making the donor calls, and I'm seeing all the places they've donated, they've stopped donating to the state GOP, like 2020, 2022, and all of them in 24. They figured out that these donors would rather just give it to a candidate. So we got to bring this back, because we're the mechanism now. We're the factory that's going to do the work for all these candidates. We have to be a part of it. So it's cologop.org. cologop.org. You can click on
Carl,
there.
Can you put that in the description for people to see?
You can click
Shout out to Carl. You're the best.
Thank you, Carl. That we definitely want to make sure we, if you can just do a monthly donation and just have it in there every month, and just start working on it. Yeah, because I already told you about the limits. We have limits.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things that I did want to talk about as well, and I'm not sure if you'd be the right person to talk to about this, is I see every year on the ballot a slew of ballot propositions. I mean, that's how we got the gray wolf. That's how we have 6.5 excise tax on guns.
Dumb.
I've talked to Republican candidates about this before, and they feel like ballot propositions are a lost cause, but I can see it as a way to potentially curb legislative power and or pass something through that is constitutional or constitutional liberty minded to the average voter in Colorado. Why do we not see the GOP run more ballot initiatives?
Because that's not really the role of the job. Because again, that everybody thinks that is. We really need the citizens to do that, but we can support them.
Exactly, because it's finances that are required.
Exactly, it takes a couple of million to run one of those, and then afterwards, where we're going to be able to help is now that the petitions are out. As long as the petitions are out now, you can go get a petition and let's put them in all these locations, and so we can, and then when we're knocking on doors. Why aren't we carrying those petitions?
Agreed.
Just what I'm saying, we're doing the work for you.
Cut down a lot of costs.
Exactly, because we have the 3 kid ones. I mean, we always call it the parent ones.
Yeah.
About no boys and girls sports. Remember, we ran all 3 of them last year.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what the other 2 were, and I apologize, I don't have the tip of my tongue. But I know those got all passed. I know there's a new one coming in. We're going to keep an eye on. It's going to be no more. income tax on state taxes. It was like to
That'd be
cancel
great.
that.
I mean,
I would
income
love
tax
that.
is one
I
of the
was-
only reasons that businesses are kept out of Colorado is because
Right.
they have high income tax.
There's a group of people that that ride horses and they go to certain places and they go run these things and there are like 144 of them were in a tent right next to my ranch, and I went up there to go visit, just say hi and have dinner, and I'm fundraising while we're there. I'm getting
Yeah.
donations. There's a lot of money in that tent, and there was a gentleman that's saying that's going to be coming out. It's going to be about we need money to get money, make sure we do a ballot initiative that all the money that's going to transportation needs to go back to roads.
Oh,
Agreed.
thank you, God.
Well, what happens
And
to
I'll
the
be
pot
happy to
money?
carry
Where's
it.
all that pot money?
Exactly.
supposed to be
Did
for
you remember
roads?
all that hot money? Remember all that? And they said it was go back to the schools.
Yeah.
And then we found out even our little community in Route County, a little school in Yampa, Colorado, where my daughters were at. They found out that money was
Great
only
fishing
able. That's great. But the money was only be able to use if they built a new school. Well, they didn't need to build a school. They needed to make sure there was just money for them.
For the school or for the districts.
kids. Remember, for
Yeah.
the schools. And then they realized that that was back. It was Hickenlooper, wasn't it? He was
I believe so.
governor.
Yeah.
So remember, then they're like, "Oh my gosh, we have all this money. What are we going to do?" It was so hypocritical for my teenage daughters to know that they got a teacher or like an advisor, a counselor, that was paid by the pot money to tell the kids
Don't
not
do
to do drugs. Exactly. It was the biggest hypocrisy. They were laughing their off.
So we got another question from Colorado. Oh,
And guys, let me also just say for those of you in the comments, other ways that you can donate to the show is super chats. It also helps with the algorithm. Every time you do a super chat or something of that nature, not only does it bring it directly to Carl's attention so that it's more likely to get put into the show for questions, it also helps with the YouTube algorithm and the other algorithms to disseminate the show because YouTube's getting something off the top there. But the rest of it goes to the Second Syndicate and to the 2A.
but you heard it here. To run a ballot initiative is $1 million at least,
I'm sorry?
right? A
Oh,
ballot
it's huge
initiative
money.
is about $1 million.
Not only to
So-
get going on it, but then also to get the boots in the ground to get all those signatures. Because either you're going to do the signature, a certain percentage of the
Sure.
whole state or a certain number per
And
county.
be able to verify those signatures to make sure that no one's changed their residency since the time it was collected or
And how much more over that percentage you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you have to have all your ducks in a row, all your army ready in every one of those counties to make it work.
Sure.
You really do.
I think leaning on technology a lot and AI, which I know I won't go into too much detail, but I know you're talking to Sean about that. But would definitely make our lives easier on these recall initiatives, on these ballot initiatives, all these things to be able to utilize them. And if we don't start doing it soon, the other side, if they haven't already, will be.
I think we had those conversations. I think they started, especially with some of the things we're going to have. So we're going to work on at the party having our own platform, and we're going to have our own dashboard. And if you're on these committees and you're a part of these coalitions, you're going to have access to them, and you're going to be able to click on everything and get the answers you need really
Nice.
fast. That's just management now in the 21st century. That's the only way you can manage everybody.
Absolutely.
And they will keep an eye on everybody, the security piece, what they're doing with the information and why they're in there. But these other, like you said, AI products, we're going to be able just to narrow in, get people to start asking questions. And you're right, it's going to be a chat bot. We all know that.
Yeah.
We all know when we pick up the phone at any service, even any bank, you're going to
Yeah.
talk to a chat bot first.
Yeah.
Before they navigate you to a person. But at least you can start warming them, talking to them, talking about the issues, seeing how they're answering them and what's important, and get the answers to them that they need.
I never realized how important money was until I attended the GOP gala this year. I was absolutely mouth on the ground floored of how little people donated, how little people bid on auction things. Like they couldn't even raise $1,300 for a puppy. I'm like, this is a AKC registered purebred puppy that has been trained to be a bird dog. That's not cheap.
No, it's
And
thousands upon
they
thousands
couldn't
of
even
dollars.
raise money for that. So that, to me, I'm like, there's obviously something wrong in the GOP that they don't feel that they should be reinvesting in
Right.
their own politics.
Well, it comes down
and
to
we need to change
conservatives
that.
versus progressives. Conservatives are less likely to spend their own money or spend money in general. It's just part of being conservative.
I even
Right,
had
and,
people-
and we're working class. And
Yes.
we're doing the work. We're blue collar people and we're doing the work. And that used to be the Democrats, and now
Yes.
it's us.
Now,
Yeah.
Really, people have a hard time remembering. I'm on the older side where you were a Kennedy Democrat. You
Yeah.
were a Kennedy Democrat.
Yeah.
Well, Kennedys are now Republicans.
For
I
real.
know.
We
That's
got
crazy,
one,
right?
didn't we? Exactly. We've become that party, and so we really need to embrace that. So if you can't do it, we're gonna have to get it in, like you said, in in the shoe leather. We have to get everybody to do the work, at
Yeah.
least do the work if they're not going to put the money towards it. But they need to see that we're going to be doing something. So now, like I said, with our strategy and how we're pushing everything out, and I'm telling you, we have 47 people that are just working, if not close to 50, just working on all these different committees. We have a comms committee, we have a strategy committee, we have a training committee. I mean, I can go on. We even have our own chaplain now, and he's reaching out to all the pastors
Wow.
across the state so we can get our, get our voice out and get what we need to, so everybody knows. Because now the preachers and the churches are much more comfortable about having these conversations. Like I said, when I was back in 2020 down in New Mexico, I was in this waterfall, I think was the name of the town, right next to Shiprock, and it was an old Marine. Oh, don't let that happen.
Oh God, they would kill you.
Retired, and he was like, "Here, take the pulpit. I want you to talk about Trump and tell everybody to vote for Trump." I wouldn't get on there. I'd stay on the ground. I'm not worthy to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was definitely every Sunday I was getting voter registration for people to flip over from Democrat to Republican, Republicans for Trump, and so we can do that and we can get that voice out. And as people see that, I'm going to tell you that we're going to be in better shape, Teddy, to make sure people are going to put more money into it.
I will
They
say
see effectiveness.
I mean, as far as FFLs are concerned here in the state of Colorado, we've seen a number leave the state. We've seen a number of manufacturers leave the state because of the stuff that's going on here with 2A. I hope that we can focus a little more on 2A as a party as well and really rally around it, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are not traditional Republicans that are pro 2A.
Yeah.
It's a civil right. We do have a question from Colorado Trail Boss. From historical events from that office in Colorado, do we need to be worried about ballots being affected? I'm not sure what.
I'm trying to
Oh,
figure
we know
out that
what's
as
going on.
much. Yeah, as much as I can figure out the ballots going on. I think what he's talking about is just making sure that we have, ballots are going in, that we're getting all of them. And I know we're working really hard with Road to Red with Heidi Ganal and her group. And she was already doing this last year. She was let's go sit by these ballot boxes. Let's keep an eye on this stuff.
them,
Yeah,
make sure
monitor
they're
them.
not
Yeah,
being stuffed.
exactly. Because back in, I remember the day, people don't even talk about this, but I remember back in 08 and 10, and even 12, we were following the buses because they were busing them in and putting them in a hotel. And then they were walking in because it was same day registration and they were
We've
using
also
the
got
hotel
old
address.
Griswold in charge of our ballots here in Colorado,
exactly.
so I don't trust her as far as you can throw
So
her.
we
Oh, let's
definitely
talk about now.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to. I know that you're on a
I'm sorry.
time constraints. You got to head out at 6 or 7.
Right,
Yeah,
Seven.
she's gotta head out.
So
we
we
have
got
special
about
questions.
10 minutes left. I'll let Alicia close us out today.
So we have special questions that we always like to ask our guests that are obviously gun related because we love guns here. The first question is, if you carry a gun and you have a EDC, everyday carry for those out there, what kind of gun is that? 2, what is your holy grail gun? Like if, laws didn't matter and you could buy whatever you wanted, what would you? And the third thing is a quote that you want to bestow upon our audience for them to associate with you and remember you by.
Oh, okay. All right. So first of all, very much with our daughters, and my husband's definitely a hunter, and we definitely hunt, and we have all the rifles on our ranch. Okay, that's just we're that version,
Okay,
we're
the
not
hunter shooter
kind of person. Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, when I get to hunt, and I do have my hunter license also, and I did when I first got here because I was a city girl, came from DC, came from Chicago. We never talked about that, but anyway, so that was new to me, and I actually even got my hunter safety license when I was pregnant. So I didn't have to do the belly shoot.
Okay, the prone.
Exactly, because I was already like 6 months pregnant. So was my firstborn. But anyway, so we always have them around. So and the only type of hunting, because I live already in rural America, very blessed, no cell service. Love where my husband built our house, our log house and on our, the family ranch. The kind of hunting I like to do is when I get to tighten my robe, put down my coffee cup, and just from the back.
Oh, the beautiful dream, right? Hunted from the
go,
back
honey,
porch.
it's in the backyard. Go get it. You know what I mean? So that's
Yes.
my kind of hunting. I'm not your. I'll make reservations at the hotel before I go hunting with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
that kind of a little more of that city girl.
That's okay.
So, and my husband's fine with that too. So anyway, so my go-to all the time is I'm more of a revolver girl. I really like my 357. I'm
Okay.
a Smith & Wesson. I like
Okay.
it, Model 60, shorter,
Model 60.
and
All
I'm
right.
comfortable with that. And I have it with me. I didn't bring it in. I didn't feel like I needed to, but I always have it with me. It's always in a certain place that you might do a flash bang, but you're gonna,
Okay.
you're gonna get it. I have no problem pulling it out and getting it.
All right.
There's no problem there. We taught our daughters in that. We have 22s everywhere. We made sure they were all concealed carry, also even in their states, and they're very comfortable around guns, and they're better at it than I am when we do.
Women tend to be excellent shooters.
Yeah, but and so there's a little bit of competition when they come home, and we all practice and we do all of that. And then it seems like I like novelty ones. We were at the Otero Lincoln Day dinner, and it's just a little 22, and there's the Super Magnum.
Yeah.
And it was
The Win Mag, yeah.
the little one. It's in my husband's pocket right now, and it's just
that's
full of
awesome.
22s because he thought it has a blue handle. I just sort of fell in love with it, and it was, of course, we wanted to do
It's probably a little North
fundraising.
American Arms or something.
No, it's a little one. It fits inside your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
little-
North American Arts probably is the name of the brand.
I think
They
it's
make
North
a-
America. You're
yeah,
right.
They have the pug.
Yeah, all those different ones.
They're
And-
good
but,
to me.
But
I
guess
have
what it
one
says?
too.
It says 47 on it, Magnum,
There you go.
and
Yeah.
it says Trump on it.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Because we're not going to. I'm like, we might as well use it, but it might as well be something for our daughters because
That's cool.
really, we're not going to see
Guns
Trump.
should be a legacy.
There you go. To pass
Guns
them
should
on.
be a legacy.
So we're going to use it though. We're not going to let it keep pretty. So anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. I'm not, I love everything we see, but I'm just not into it as much, and it is beautiful.
I understand.
That is, but we're definitely to protect ourselves, and it's always I'm making sure I follow the rules in my truck right now, and everything's locked up. Yeah, I know, and it's frustrating.
It is.
I don't like that because remember before that law went into effect, I was talking to a lot of the other gun girls that we all know. I'm sorry, we'll finish up.
No,
And
I'm
that
not worried, but
they were all worried
Care.
of when everybody's doing this windshield washing at the
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
and they're getting harassed. They're in their trucks, but there's multiple people jump in their trucks and their vehicles.
Yeah.
And we already had to figure out a way, like, okay, we're going to put our gun in the dash before we get there.
Sure.
So they see it and they go away. Can you believe we have to have a conversation like
crazy.
that
I-
with
I-
young
also,
women?
People
That's
know
crazy.
in the state of Colorado, you do not need a concealed handgun permit to conceal a handgun
On your
person,
vehicle.
in your vehicle or your private means of conveyance, in your place of business or your dwelling. So keep that in mind. So FYI.
Stay strapped.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
FYI.
And then I would say, in terms of the quote, it's like, let's just get to work. It's
get to
time
work.
to get to work.
All
When
right.
you see me, we're working, and I'm gonna ask you to do some work.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, we hope that we can have you again and have a more in-depth conversation when you have some more time.
course.
We loved having you on the show. No, this was great.
nice to
I
have
feel
you
like
anyway.
everybody that's definitely watching is a little bit more familiar with you now, a little bit better introduced, and I think they had a lot of their questions answered. So thank you again for coming on tonight. It was great having you.
I appreciate it. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
And I want to give a shout out to my friends, Kings of Camo. They sent me this gun. This is my Chris Vector. It's a Gen 2 9mm Vector. And because they appreciate and love all of the volunteer work and the two-way work that I do and we do here at the Second Syndicate, they volunteered to custom paint job this for me. I'm going to be taking this home because I love it. But I just want to say thank you and shout out to them. It's, a lot of the times when we ask you to donate to us, to support us, it's not always money. Do we need money? Absolutely. But if you have a skill set, let us know. If you know how to code, if you have sales experience, if you know firearms, if you know marketing, if you want to knock on doors, if you want to make phone calls, whatever it is, if you want to volunteer a time or a skill set, let us know. We're wanting to expand the syndicate.
Join the syndicate.
Join us.
Join or die.
Yes. Join the syndicate. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for you tonight. Thank you again to Brita and
bless.
for
Appreciate
blessing us with your time. So, everybody out there, stay strapped, support the two-way. We'll catch you on the
Wednesdays at
flip.
6 o'clock. We'll see you next time. Thank you
Bye.
guys. God bless.